Good morning. Order. I call this meeting to order. This is the Standing Committee on Community Services. I am Susan Corkin-Greek, Chair and MLA for Lunenburg. And today we're going to hear from presenters on the topic of supporting healthy families. I would ask everyone to please either turn off their phones or place them on silent, and remind you that in the case of an emergency, please use the Granville Street exit and walk up to the Grand Parade. I will now ask the committee members to please introduce themselves for the record by stating their name and constituency, and I will begin on my left.
Good morning, Tim Outfit, Bedford Basin.
Hi everybody, my name is Damien Stoylov from Bedford South.
Good morning everyone, my name is Diane Timmons, I'm from Victoria the Lakes area, thank you.
Good morning, Kyle McQuarrie, Inverness.
Good morning, Derek Marburkett, Sydney Member 2.
Ian Rankin, Timberley Prospect.
Lena Hammett, Fairview Clayton Park.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Susie Hanson, MLA for Halifax Needham.
Thank you all, and I would also like to note the presence and support of Legislative Counsel, Aaron Fowler, and our committee clerk, Tamer Nusaba. I had a quick moment to personally welcome all our witnesses, as a number of the members of the committee have. I will give each of you an opportunity to introduce yourselves, and following that, we'll offer an opportunity for opening comments. But perhaps again, we'll begin. I'm left-handed, so we'll begin on my left with introductions, please.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Johnson-Morrison. I'm the Associate Deputy Minister for the Department of Opportunities and Social Development, with responsibilities for the status of women as well.
Good morning, Shelley James. I'm an Associate Deputy Minister with Opportunities and Social Development.
Good morning, Jill Barkhouse, Acting Executive Director with our Child and Family Wellbeing team with Department of Opportunities and Social Development.
And good morning, I'm Jennifer Griffiths. I'm the Director for Income Assistance with Employment Support and Income Assistance Program with OSD.
Good morning, I'm Sarah MacMaster. I'm the Executive Director of Maggie's Place, a resource center for families serving Cumberland and Colchester County.
I'm Alicia McInnis. I am a Parenting Journey Home Visitor with Maggie's Place in Cumberland County.
Thank you all very much for being here. We all are, in our own lives, members of families, and families are defined as we define them. We'll begin with opening remarks and with Shelley. Thank you.
Thank you, and good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to be here today. As mentioned, I am an Associate Deputy Minister, and I am joined here with three of my esteemed colleagues, and we're happy to talk about the support that we provide in supporting healthy families in the province, a topic that is central to the work that we do every single day. We know that many families in Nova Scotia are experiencing significant challenges, and that is why our department is focused on delivering practical, long-term supports that help families build stability and thrive. This includes financial supports like income assistance, the Nova Scotia Child Benefit, and financial stabilization payments, housing supports, including the ROSE, which provides supportive housing to families with children, and our master lease program through ADSUM and other partners. Our prevention and early intervention programs, delivered in community by partners like Maggie's Place, that support and strengthen families. And the work that our service delivery team does day after day, from caseworkers, care coordinators, social workers, youth support workers, and many, many more. But we are not doing this work in a vacuum. We have many partners and communities across the province that support Nova Scotia families every single day. And of course, the work of our colleagues across the provincial government, where we have seen historic actions and investments to build more public housing, create affordable community housing, provide lunches to more than 100,000 students every day in schools, increasing the minimum wage, decreasing taxes, and much, much more. Another important step forward for us is the development of our new child and family well-being practice framework. The framework is grounded in the belief that children and families do best when they are together and that they are supported in their communities with services that are culturally responsive, trauma-informed, and we focus on prevention. It reflects our commitment to doing work differently in partnership with families, communities, and service providers to improve the outcomes for children and youth. We know that there's more to do, and we're committed to continuing this work in collaboration with our partners to ensure every family in Nova Scotia has the opportunity to be healthy, supported, and secure. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here. We look forward to hearing your questions.
Thank you, ADM James. And next, we will hear from Sarah MacMaster, please.
Thank you and good morning. My name's Sarah MacMaster, and I'm the Executive Director at Maggie's Place, a resource center for families serving Cumberland and Colchester County. And today I'm here with my colleague, Alicia McInnis, who you'll hear from in a moment. Maggie's Place, a resource center for families association, operates throughout Cumberland and Colchester counties. And our mission is to enhance the health and social development of families, youth, and children within their own communities. We offer a wide variety of programs, services, and supports that help families build strong foundations to thrive, not just in their moments of need, but across all stages of family life. Throughout our partnership with the Department of Opportunities and Social Development, we've been able to identify service gaps, share what we're hearing from families on the ground, and advocate together for meaningful community-based solutions. Family resource centers that operate all across the province, like Maggie's Place, hold a unique position in our communities. For Maggie's Place, with over 30 years of service in the community, we've built deep trust and long-standing relationships with community. These connections allow us to meet people where they are and respond to the needs that are quickly evolving for families. That ability to pivot has been especially important in the last several years, as families face growing challenges around housing, food security, mental health, and access to childcare and transportation. Our approach focuses on building on families' strengths, creating welcoming spaces where parents and caregivers feel supported, can gain confidence, and connect with others who understand their experiences. A strong example of this approach would be our recent focus on building relationships with African Nova Scotian families. Through our organization's strategic plan, we recognize the need to create culturally safe and welcoming spaces within our programming. In partnership with the department, it's led to a Cultural Connections Initiative, which we are hosting in Cumberland County. This initiative has opened doors and new partnerships, strengthened community networks, and allowed us to support African Nova Scotian families in ways that feel respectful, inclusive, and empowering. Together, we're not only addressing service gaps, but we're fostering a sense of belonging and pride that strengthens the fabric of our communities. At Maggie's Place, we also work hard to reduce barriers to accessing services. Many across Cumberland and Colchester remain without reliable internet, cellular service, which makes it difficult for families to connect with the resources and supports that they need. That's why we take our programs directly into communities, offering services where families live, work, and gather. By integrating practical supports such as transportation, childcare, food within our programs, we're able to reduce stress of parents and create opportunities for meaningful connection and learning. This work directly strengthens families. When families have access to support, education, and community, they feel more confident in their parenting, more connected to others, and better equipped to manage life's challenges. When children grow up in families that feel supported, they are more likely to develop resilience and well-being that help them to succeed in life. And when communities come together to care for families, everyone's benefiting. Our work may look different in each community that we serve. Sometimes it's a parent group or a play-based program, a food workshop, or a simple conversation with a staff member who's able to listen and connect the family to the right resources. But at its core, everything we do is about strengthening families, building community resilience, and helping families not just survive, but truly thrive. So I'd like to thank you for your ongoing support and commitment to supporting the well-beings of families across Nova Scotia.
Thank you so much. Do we have anyone else with opening? Oh. Ms. McInnis, please.
Okay, so I'm a parenting journey home visitor in Amherst, but I serve all of Cumberland County. And the program that I have the pleasure of working for helps support families that face complex social, emotional, and economic challenges. The work that I do is rooted in a simple truth, that children thrive when families thrive, and families thrive when they are supported by strong relationships, strong communities, and strong systems. We provide early in-home support that focuses on child development, parenting capacity, and family well-being, and connections to community resources. Our approach is holistic, trauma-informed, and grounded in dignity and respect. We walk alongside caregivers, helping them build confidence, strengthen attachment with their children, increase problem-solving skills, and access to practical supports in times of stress and crisis. The results are clear. Families build resilience, children experience healthier development, and communities benefit through reduced child protection involvement, stronger mental health outcomes, and improved school readiness. When we invest early in families, we don't just help a household, we strengthen the fabric of our communities. At Maggie's Place, our Parenting Journey program is uniquely positioned within a hub of support that families need the most. Under one roof, parents can access quality early childhood programming, pre- and postnatal supports, and food security resources. This model reduces the time that families spend searching for help and increases the time that they can spend building capacity, confidence, and connection. In my work, I've witnessed remarkable transformations. Families arrive to us during some of the hardest moments of their lives, and over time, they walk out standing a lot taller. One parent had come to us surviving trauma, abuse, and with a great fear of losing their children. Through coordinated support, advocacy, and collaboration across community services, that parent has rebuilt their life. Today, they're thriving, but not because of one single program, because of the wraparound supports that met them where they were at with dignity and hope. And this is something that we have the pleasure of seeing every day at Maggie's Place. Parents and families that are strengthened by the environment that we provide, and we're able to connect with them, providing all of the supports that they need under one roof that provides no judgment, just meeting them where they're at. Maggie's Place becomes a launching pad for resilience. Many families meet us in prenatal class and continue on through infancy, early childhood, and adolescence, building confidence, community, and capacity along the way. We see people arrived overwhelmed and unsure where to turn. With continued engagement and support, those families leave stronger, supported, and steady. When you walk through Maggie's Place, you don't just find a program, you find a community that's rooting for you. Those of us who work in this field do it because we believe in prevention, in community, and the incredible strength that families have. Every day, we see the impact in stronger parents, healthier children, and a brighter future for our province. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Now, as we enter the question and answer, important question and answer segment, I will just remind everyone, if you can wait till I acknowledge you by name and the red light is on your mic so we can have a complete recording for posterity. No pressure. We will have 3 rounds of questioning. The first by the NDP Caucus. They'll have 20 minutes, followed by 10 minutes for the Liberal Caucus and 30 minutes for the PC Caucus. We'll then take any remaining time and divide that up. So we will start with MLA Hamid with the first question.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here and for your time today. This is a very important topic. We have unfortunately been seeing some very concerning trends in our province. 1/3 of all food bank visits this year have been for children. We've also seen families struggling with access to childcare and affordable and accessible childcare. And we've talked a lot about, in our province, about gender-based violence, and children are often witnesses and experience complex disruptions to their lives as a result. So my first question will be to the department. Over the span of 4 years, we've had 4 ministers of community services and the Department of Opportunities and Social Development. They've all said they're fully committed to establishing an office of a child and youth advocate. Now we're on to Minister 5, and we still don't have an office set up. Has the high turnover impacted your work on this important file? And did the work in the department have to slow down while each new minister was brought up to speed?
I recognize ADM James.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Government remains committed in its work to establish an office for children and youth in Nova Scotia, and work is well underway. Even with each new minister, there is a commitment to establishing the office and having it set up in order to deliver on the mandate for children, families, and youth and all Nova Scotians. When there's more information to share, I know our previous minister was a strong advocate and communicated regularly, and we will be happy to reach out. In the meantime, if there are children and youth who are in need of any type of advocacy, the Office of the Ombudsman is readily available.
Thank you. MLA Hamid.
Thank you. I mean, the majority of the minister's communications was that it's coming. There wasn't really much more communicated further than that. And the outgoing minister had said that they were committed to being the one that actually stands this up. This is a direct quote. How close did the Office of the Child and Youth Advocate get to opening under that minister's watch?
I recognize ADM James.
Thank you for the question. As has been stated previously, this is not something that we want to move quickly on. We want to ensure that we are getting things right and that we are having the appropriate regulations and legislation in place. So work continues, and we're hoping in the very near future that we will be announcing the office opening.
Recognize MLA Hamid.
Thank you. Other provinces have established such offices for children and youth to give young folks a political voice. So when will Nova Scotia's Office of Child and Youth Advocate be up and running? Because as it's being delayed, we're seeing these concerning trends continue to grow.
I recognize ADM James.
Thank you again for your question. So we, as I stated, we remain committed to putting all of the pieces that are needed in order to establish the office. I will say that our department is in constant communication, responding to inquiries that are raised through the Office of the Ombudsman. So that is always an avenue in the absence of a standalone Office of Child and Youth Advocate. The Office of the Ombudsman does contact us to discuss any concerns that may be raised with children or youth who are connected with our department.
Thank you. I recognize MLA Hamid.
I would like, my next question is for Maggie's place. Do you think that having an office of a child and youth advocate would be beneficial in terms of ensuring that kids coming through your doors are getting what they need from the province?
I recognize Ms. MacMaster.
Yeah, I definitely see that there would be a benefit to having such an office. For youth, children and youth 12 and above, we do have in some communities, and I believe coming to all communities, we do have the integrated youth services, which they do have a child advocacy a group within them, a youth and parent caregiver, and I could see something like that feeding, being able to feed information into such an advocacy a group when it is established.
Thank you. I recognize MLA Hamid.
Thank you. So going back to the department, children exposed to gender-based violence either in their homes or in their community, like what happened during the mass casualty event, need specialized support and care. How is the department determining what these children need from the province?
I recognize Associate Deputy Johnson-Morrison.
Thank you for the question. I would start off by saying we recognize that gender-based violence is a scourge, and we are doing everything that is possible, both across all of government and also with community, to ensure that we are addressing it at its root. It's one of the reasons why in the next couple of weeks we will have the very first gender-based violence ministers table that will hear from community directly in terms of what might be gaps that exist in the system and what might be solutions coming from community that we can look to ensure that is really putting children at the forefront. I think one of the other pieces that I would say is while we are waiting for that table to be stood up, some of the things we've been doing collectively across all of government is the establishment of various types of programs that can support women who have experienced gender-based violence or those who also identify as women that have experienced gender-based violence and children that are also caught up in this really unfortunate issue. And some of that is like the gender-based violence rent supplement that is provided specifically to ensure that if someone is fleeing gender-based violence, that they're able to access that fund. We've also worked with partners like the YWCA to establish the December 6th Fund, which also provides grants to women that are fleeing gender-based violence. We have a number of other solutions like diversion funding, that if, for example, we know that someone is actually going to be losing their home because of a gender-based violence, we can actually provide supplemental funding to bridge them into a new lease or to negotiate with their landlords or whatever is needed. And I think the final piece I would say as part of this is that a major part of this is also around legislation. So just in the last fall, our department would have worked with Service Nova Scotia to have a piece of legislation that allows for if someone is actually part of a gender-based violence unfortunate scenario and they're losing their home, that the landlord is now in a position to support extending the lease to that person so that they're not losing their home, which disrupts families. And we know that we have a number of solutions like the Rose, that if, for example, someone unfortunately happens to have a family that has faced gender-based violence, they can actually access the Rose, which provides housing specifically for families with children. Thank you.
Thank you. I recognize MLA Hamid.
Thank you. Those definitely very important changes that were made, and we're happy to have brought those ideas forward to the minister during the spring session. So regarding the newly released Child and Family Wellbeing Policy Manual, there's several concerns that have come up when going through that. First of all, guidelines around caseload standards have been removed. There's also been obviously no mention of the child and youth advocate in there, so not sure where the progress is on that. And oversight and accountability is deficient, where there used to be some direction to provide complaints. Now it only mentions the Ombudsman's office. And on top of that, it doesn't outline what steps should be taken to support children when family violence occurs. Can you tell us why the policy is so vague, particularly on the family violence issue?
I recognize Ms. Barkhouse.
Yes, thank you for the question. We also are deeply concerned about the issue of family violence, impacts of gender-based violence, and recognize those issues as crucial issues in terms of supporting and strengthening families. We are very proud of the recent release of our policy manual. It has undergone a complete revision and lines up with a practice framework that's also been developed over the course of the last 2 years. That practice framework really guides child and family well-being supports and services across the province, both delivered by staff within Department of Opportunities and Social Development and with our community partners. It is based on the foundation that communities support safety and well-being of children. And so our position then is about working in partnership with communities and service providers like Maggie's Place to help support and strengthen families. The practice framework is also built on cultural awareness and sensitivity, specifically around Indigenous and Afrocentric voice. It also centers the principle around child's voice as a key tenet in terms of social work practice in the delivery of child and family services. And so always, in terms of supporting families, we're recognizing voice of children and youth as critical to the plans that impact them and that impact their safety and well-being, both in the moment and long term. Our policy then is built from that practice framework, and so the idea is that the practice framework is the guiding framework for practice and service delivery. The policy is a transparent and publicly available resource and document that helps helps to be explicit around our responsibility and roles in terms of child and family services. We also have developed a comprehensive procedure piece that accompanies the policy that does guide staff in their decision making. And so pieces around caseloads and workloads for social workers within the department are included in the procedure piece. We also have built out further in that procedure document pieces around accountability for reviews, program reviews, responses to individual concerns and inquiries, partnership with Ombudsman's Office.
Sorry, I recognize MLA Hamid.
Sorry, thank you. I appreciate those details, but my question was about the vagueness of family violence in the policy manual.
Yes, thank you.
I recognize Ms. Barkhouse.
Thank you for the question. So specifically around family violence, we've included in our policy responses around child safety in all of the ways that that safety is impacted, including family violence. The specific responses aren't included in policy, but do certainly show up in the support to staff in how we respond in terms of timeliness and partnership with community.
I recognize MLA Hamid with 6.5 minutes left.
Thank you. I'll just quickly say, you did mention the transparency, but it seems that things are not as transparent if we're not seeing those in the policy manual and it's in some guidelines somewhere that is not actually available to the public. That's problematic. So if it's great that all of these, there are some great changes in there, obviously, with the culturals, being culturally aware when providing the care. But, the fact that caseloads are not publicly available, we don't know what that is. And as far as I understand from the College of Social Workers, that's been removed. So there's no guidelines there about caseload standards. And not having anything about how the department's going to respond to family violence in the policy manual, the public policy manual, is quite concerning. But I will give the rest of my time to my colleague.
I recognize MLA Hanson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to touch on housing and affordability, and this is for Maggie's Place. The average Nova Scotian's rent has gone up nearly $4,400 per year, which is more than $360 a month, which is just really quite disturbing relative to 2021, when this government first took office. Can you speak to how this is impacting families in your area specifically?
I recognize Ms. MacMaster.
You might have something to say. I certainly recognize the complexities that families are struggling with, and a lot of that is due to affordability. I can speak to how it impacts our work, because we are in the business of offering family support. What it does impact is our ability to actually do the work that we've been tasked to do around supporting families, because it's really difficult to talk to a parent how to create a bedtime routine or school readiness when they don't know where the next meal's coming from, how they're going to pay their rent. The department has been helpful in supporting us with some funding that we're able to meet as a management team and talk about how to use that to support our families, which has been really helpful. It's not a long-term strategy by any stretch, but it has been helpful in us working with the families that do come to us and are on our caseloads if they need support with a power bill or a rent payment. We also do have food programming money to help support those things. But the complexity of families is increasing. The families that are coming, that we are seeing, many of them are outside of our scope of practice and skills. They need mental health support. If you look at the job bank, there is many openings for mental health supports. I can't help but take this opportunity to say that the Nova Scotia College of Counselling Therapists has a very narrow application process, and there's many qualified professionals moving to Nova Scotia for quality of life and who are unable to practice in Nova Scotia, who have many skills and knowledge, but they maybe didn't take a master's in social work. They went to somewhere else. And if we look at Ontario and other provinces, they have a much wider scope and are able to get people into the workforce more quickly. We know professionals who have been working for 7 months trying to figure out how to get to work in mental health, and they've probably reached out to some of you on how to do that. So we do see the complexities, but without addressing some of those mental health needs, we absolutely can't get to a place with families where we can even support them in stable housing when they're unmedicated. And yeah, so I know that your question is very broad, and lots of folks are struggling, and we're seeing that every day.
I recognize MLA Hanson.
Thank you. And I spoke to that for that reason, because we know that it touches every level, right? Like when we think about housing and how important that is for folks. I mean, when we think about mental health supports and we think about food insecurities, we think about all of these things. But, you know, when your housing is insecure, everything else seems even more stressful when that happens. So I'm going to talk about childcare spaces, because this may be something as well in your area that you're experiencing. When parents are able to find childcare, you know, they are faced with some of the highest fees in the country, and we know that childcare spaces are limited. So can you speak to how this is impacting families that you work with in particular?
I recognize Ms. McInnis.
So the last stat I heard in our area of Cumberland County was that it's about at least 2 years, sometimes 5, depending on the age of the child, to get in for a subsidized daycare spot, which is kind of the best option for a lot of our folks who work minimum wage jobs, don't have a great pay. So if you work full-time and you are trying to find childcare and you have to go outside of our licensed daycare that has that lovely subsidy, you're looking at upwards of $40 a day per child, which really doesn't make sense when you're looking at your paycheck versus how much you're paying for childcare. So it's really keeping a lot of our folks out of the workforce and having to depend on other service providers that also are struggling to meet the needs of these families as well.
MLA Hanson with 20 seconds.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to say, because, you know, your perspective is coming from that area of the province. And I mean, you know, my area is also experiencing similar things. So I just kind of wanted to know, you know, like what does that look like in other pockets? And what we're hearing is very similar to
And that is time for the
everyone else.
NDP for this portion of questions. And we will move on to the Liberal Caucus, and I recognize MLA Mumbercat.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for being here today. I'm going to take the first few minutes and I'll pass it over to my colleague. So I'll get right into it. Nova Scotians, as we all know, are suffering from the high cost of living. It was said in comments today. It's been a big conversation around the committee. We can talk about power rates, rental increases, cost of groceries, the list goes on and on. My first question is, was the department consulted on the government's decision to cut the heating assistance rebate program?
I recognize ADM Johnson-Morrison.
Thank you for the question. What I can say is what the department does is look for opportunities to work on a number of fronts when it comes to supporting people. And we know that heating rebate is only one piece of the puzzle, but there's many other pieces that we know that are supporting Nova Scotian families. So what we are really focused on is trying to figure out what might those solutions be that will have the most impact for the most people. So we know that many families are experiencing various types of affordability challenges, and some of the things that we have been working on in collaboration with other departments are things like the Nova Scotia Child Benefit, which we know has made a huge difference for a number of families, and working on things like the school lunches, and also various types of funding opportunities with partners like Maggie's Place and others across the entire province, because we know that when we talk about things around affordability, heating is just one component of that, but there's many other things that are being done within the department and in collaboration with other departments. And we also know that things like the reduction of the
I am going to, please.
Oh, sure. I was just going to say, just to wrap up quickly, the reduction of the HST, we also know things like that are also making an impact in families. So when we think about it, it's an entire picture that we are looking at in terms of how we can support people. Thank you.
I recognize MLA Momberket.
Yeah, thank you. And sorry about that. I was just trying to, we only have 10 minutes, so I'm just trying to see how much time I have when I'm asking my questions. So my question, similar topic to Maggie's Place. Have you seen the impact from families as a result of the reduction of the heating assistance rebate program?
I recognize Ms. MacMaster.
For those who can benefit from the heating rebate, we have seen an impact, but not everyone can benefit from the heating rebate depending on their living circumstances. So it's certainly not a broad program that everyone can access. And so while the families that have accessed it would miss it, we don't have the ability to offer that to all of our families.
I recognize MLA Momberket.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate that because less families are accessing it. And it's something that we're hearing across the province. Thousands of Nova Scotians who used to be able to access that program cannot. It's something that we're watching very closely because it's a program that really benefited people that has been reduced. My next question, Madam Chair, through you, is that budget consultations will be beginning soon if they haven't started already. Is your department looking at an increase to income assistance?
I recognize ADM Johnson-Morrison.
Thank you for the question. So I think one thing I would say about income assistance, the department has supported a $10 million investment into income assistance. And in fact, income assistance has risen twice since July of 2024, 3.5, and again in January by another 3.1%. And it's now indexed to inflation, which means that as inflation impacts Nova Scotians, we will see that adjusted. So it really does represent a change in what income assistance has actually looked like before. And I think the other piece I'd say is that we have about 25,639 households in the province that have actually benefited from income assistance, and about 38,650 beneficiaries. So it really does make a difference when it is that it's indexed for those people who are actually utilizing income assistance.
I recognize MLA Rankin.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all your work on helping those most vulnerable in the province. There's certainly nothing more important that government can do. And on the same topic of income assistance, in June of 2021, we made a change to allow for recipients to not have an address. So you could come from a hotel, a shelter, and et cetera. So you referenced the total aggregate number of of clients that you have on income assistance, how many are in temporary shelters, hotels, or not housed at all? Do you have that number?
Sorry, I recognize ADM Johnson-Morrison.
Apologies, Chair. Apologies, Chair. What I would say on this one is that we keep a very close look in terms of the by name list of who is actually going into any of our shelters, and we know how often we're supporting people that are on income assistance but are also actually involved in homelessness. We are working with partners to ensure that there's diversion opportunities. If, for example, someone is on house, that we can actually support them either through our shelter systems or supportive housing. So we do have a good sense as it relates to who is actually as part of the list. To say specifically how many might actually be on income assistance and also homeless, it would be something I would want to come back and give you some data on that. I don't have that number right now, but what I would say is that we are working with partners and producing a number of things, like a number of opportunities, like a master lease program, to ensure that if, for example, someone has been homeless, if we get them into supportive housing, once it is that they're stabilized in supportive housing, we can then pathway them into permanent housing. And I think one piece I would say that I think is important is that we had a goal of 1,586 housing units to be built. We are already 74% of that's already been completed. We have a total of 1,174 housing supports that have already been built, and there's a lot of families that are benefiting from that, which keeps them out of the homelessness population. Thank you.
I recognize MLA Rankin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think it's an important metric to keep track of, and housing definitely relates to how people are supported and the supports through your department. Now, the new Minister of Housing has said that his only interest is building more housing stock and doesn't have an opinion when asked about policy around housing and keeping people in stable housing. So my question is, despite what the minister had to say, you're referencing housing today from your department. So what kind of coordination does exist between the Department of Opportunities and Social Development and the Department of Housing to ensure that families don't fall into homelessness, and especially those that are single parents?
I recognize ADM Johnson-Morrison.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. We do have quite extensive collaboration that happens not just with housing, but also with economic development, growth and development, as well as other partners throughout the entire system of government, to ensure that when we are talking about the needs for housing, we are also speaking about the needs for those who are experiencing gender-based violence, those who are in some way experiencing homelessness for whatever the scenario is. We know that the world has become a lot more challenging for people when it comes to affordability. So we are always looking for opportunities to partner with other departments. One of the things we're partnering on is with our engagements with the federal government when it comes to the Build Canada Homes, and that takes a collaborative effort of not just our department, but all other departments in government that have a stake in this.
I recognize MLA Rankin with about 1 minute.
Yeah, and so despite the minister's comments, it sounds like some work is happening, but we're hearing the families are falling behind. Do you have any metrics that show improvement on housing stability, employment outcomes, or anything to do with income assistance that helps people that need it the most?
MLA Johnson-Morrison.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate getting upgraded to an MLA.
You have no idea. It's a demotion.
Thank you for the question, MLA Rankin. So there's a lot of options here when we think about how do we support people from falling into homelessness. One of the things that we know is that any of us at any time could become homeless. So we are always looking at solutions, whether it comes to providing diversion funding to keep people out of homelessness, or deciding if we can support partners like Maggie's Place, or if there's opportunities to leverage some of the private
this time for this portion of questions. We move to questions from the PC Caucus, beginning with MLA Stoylov.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is from Maggie's Place. Maggie's Place, as we all know, is home to Nova Scotia's first youth integrated services. Can you give us any feedback of how that's going, that you're hearing from youth or from families? Like, what's the feedback been?
I recognize Ms. MacMaster.
So Maggie's Place is a partner, a collaborative partner in the integrated youth services. And what I would like to say is that Cumberland County was not slated to have the first integrated youth services. We were slated for year 3. But because of the collaboration in our community, Maggie's Place was already operating a youth center in collaboration with the town, the police department, and many other services like the YMCA, Restorative Justice. So we were already doing something similar to what IYS is, but without the professional supports that come with the IYS. So this was our goal all along. We built it. Once we opened our doors, we realized that our service providers did not have the skills that youth needed, because we then met the unhoused youth. Previously, we were meeting youth from schools and other service providers, but then we were meeting kids living in cars. So we knew quickly that we needed to provide something else. So when integrated youth services came through the news, we knew that we were well positioned to roll with this program and already had the partnerships. And I believe that our integrated youth services site was the only one who planned to house other organizations within it. So Maggie's Place youth staff actually work within the site. And so I think bridging that community services that existed from the department into the now anchor youth space brought those kids along with the staff. It is a bright and beautiful space, but going to a new place is very intimidating. So I do think that some of that success is due to the partnerships that existed previously. We are hearing that there is great engagement with youth, and being the first is hard. So I think what integrated youth services looks like today is going to be very different from what it probably looks like in 6 months to a year. I think it's really hard when you go from a manual to working on the ground. And so I will say that I believe it's a huge success, and it's what is needed in communities. And I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. I recognize MLA Stoylov.
Thank you very much for that. On Maggie's Place, I wonder if you could share. You provide services for children, young families, young people, etc. Could you just share a bit about what type of service you would provide for the various levels? Whether it's a young 6-year-old or a mom.
I recognize Ms. MacMaster.
So family resource centers are unique, and they have a variety of different programming. So we have federal programming, provincial programming, different funding. Also United Way and local grants. So we are very much a potluck of community services. The department helps to support our prenatal services. So once someone's expecting, they can come to a prenatal program. Our prenatal coordinator partners with all of the other programs that we offer. So each week, families meet a new service provider, so that when we say, hey, would you like to go to a play group, or would you like help installing your car seat, or are you interested in parenting journey home visiting, the folks who've come to prenatal are already familiar with staff and programs, because those folks have chance. So we start right at the beginning. Maggie's Place also offers over 100 different programs and services. And I would say 80% of those are offered in partnership with other organizations. So everything we do, we marry with our partners, which increases our ability to serve families as they are able to connect with other resources through us. So we get them prenatally, then we offer parenting programs, play groups, And many of these are in outreach rural communities, so we travel a lot. There's cars on the go everywhere across Cumberland and Colchester County. And then we also offer youth services. It could be after-school programming. It could be, I know Alicia participated in a Wired Differently program supporting parents who have children with ADHD and where to go to for support. Our ability to pivot to the needs of community is why we love doing this work. We can hear from community what's missing, and we're able to take that information and develop a program and offer it back to community. So it's really difficult to define in a few minutes. I could talk for an hour about the different things that we do, but we do community-based programming and in-home programming, one-on-one programming, group programming. And we do offer just a lot of kind of sidebar supports as well. We have grants that can help families with their dental and vision care, help them buy a car seat or a baby gate through the IWK. We partner with several different organizations to offer a holistic approach to supporting families.
Thank you. I recognize MLA Stoylov.
Thank you so much for your very thorough answer. I appreciate it. And I'd like to pass on to my colleague now, next door.
I recognize MLA Ohit.
Thank you, Ruth. The other part of Bedford. So, thank you very much for being here this morning. And my questions are going to be for Maggie's Place. And I do have some familiarity with your good new work and good reputation because spend some time in Cumberland County. So I know you cover a lot of distance, a lot of territory. So I know that you work closely with the department to deliver, I think you said over 100 programs. And I wanted to just focus a little bit more on strengthening families and cultural connections. Just tell us a little bit about those, if they're being used well, how they're being used. Just anything you can share about those for a couple minutes.
I recognize Ms. MacMaster.
Strengthening families is the core of our programming. It's what gives us the ability to do the work that we do. It's been the most stable programming funding that we have had. It's kind of just the foundation of all the work that we do, and with other program funding we're able to build off of that. And strengthening families is prenatal up to age 18, so we can follow people through the life cycle of their child into youth, and then we do have other programs that can support youth beyond that. But it really is the foundation, and it is well used, and we could always use more funding in that area, always. And it is very flexible to meet the needs of families, and that's why we really appreciate working with the department, because they understand that like what a program looks like in Halifax is not what a program looks like in Advocate Harbor. So just like sometimes we're the only support that comes into a community in Cumberland or Colchester County. As far as the Cultural Connection Initiative, I appreciate what Deputy Minister Shelley had said about sometimes you just need to get it right, and you don't want to roll something out too quickly. And I feel like the Cultural Connection program, I'm used to like getting things done, and this is a program I've really had to like sit down and say, okay, we can't even hire a staff yet because our board and our staff might not be prepared. Like, let's bring in someone to do some consultation, to do some anti-Black racism training with our board of directors and our staff. And so we do have a staff person, and they are connecting in the community. We have not yet established our roundtable because I don't feel like we've done all the groundwork yet to get there. I do see the impact. We do see more families from the African Nova Scotia community connecting with us. We see them inviting us to events, to participate in community suppers and things like that. And so I really value having that program. It has been reaching the African Nova Scotia communities in Cumberland has been part of our strategic plan for a long time, but without those community members' voice, we don't know how to do it. So we really value having that program. I don't know how it's going at other places, but we're certainly seeing some success.
I recognize MLA Ohit.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you. It's certainly exciting, and I wish you great success. I mentioned in my comments, and so have you, the size, the geographic size of Colchester and Cumberland. And you've got some urban centres like Amherst and Faroe, etc. But you mentioned Advocate Harbour. Drove through there the other day on the way to a funeral in Parsboro, and I said, boy, this is big country. Pretty good roads, I have to admit, but very, very big country. So tell us a little bit about how people are accessing you in the more rural areas of those two counties, and where I would argue that perhaps the need is even higher because of isolation and perhaps lack of community. So just anything you want to share on how you're accessing and any differences you see between rural and urban in your approach?
I recognize Ms. MacMaster.
I think when you think about the rural communities, it really comes down to that collaboration. Folks are not going to see on our social media, on our Facebook, on our Instagram page that we're offering an after-school program and advocate. They're not going to see that. They don't have reliable internet. That's not how they're receiving support. In those communities, we often work with the schools. They're their greatest ally. They know the families. They know the community members. And because we do have long-standing relationships in communities, principals will call us and say, this is what our community needs. And so that ability to then pivot to meet the needs. And something that we have been seeing more of, it's just like kids are really struggling, and can you just come and do something kind of fun and creative with them? We're getting that ask a lot. There's not a lot for youth happening in our communities outside of maybe like a sports team or something like that. So coming to kind of meet those creative kids that just need a safe place for someone to talk to. And because we have been going to play groups in these communities for 30 years, families know and trust us to have their youth come to a program. We're not just like a strange entity entering community and offering something.
Thank you. I recognize MLA Ovitt.
I'll just say thank you very much and best wishes, and I'm going to hand over to MLA Timmins.
I recognize MLA Timmins.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. I really appreciate the information that you're providing for us. And it does take a community to raise a family throughout Nova Scotia, and every community is individual. And we see that rural basis, urban as well. And having that unique and flexibility to have community organizations to assist and in the challenges that we face is really important, and I see that in my own community as well. I do want to speak about the homeless. The province works on a homeless and support housing has been led by a dedicated team in OSD. This includes supporting families with children who have experienced homeless, but the pathways are different depending on family versus an individual. Can you talk about the program or how you would deal with that in the department, and what route would you be taking?
I recognize ADM Johnson-Morrison.
Thank you so much for the question. I think your point is well taken. Families are unique and have different needs depending on their own circumstance. But we also know that, to the point I was saying earlier, any of us at any time could find ourselves in a situation where we are homeless. So one of the things we've been doing in the department is working with a number of providers like ATSM to ensure that we are creating scenarios for families that work with the unique needs of that family. So, for example, we have units at ATSM that are 2-bedroom and 4-bedroom, depending on the size of the families, that supports those who are at risk of homelessness to actually start to rebuild their lives. The Rose that ATSM has is a beautiful location. They have playgrounds that are right nearby, so that any of those children whose families are experiencing homelessness are able to live their lives as though they don't even know that their family is experiencing homelessness. And I think that's what we'd want for any of our families. So that's one of the initiatives that the department has on the way. Another one that is also just as important is a master lease program, working with a number of providers who are also helping to ensure that they are creating supportive housing opportunities for families that are specific to communities, so that family, if we can work on a master lease in Cumberland County or in Yarmouth, we can work on that master lease and ensure that a family can move into a community that they're familiar with, so they don't have to worry about changing schools and disrupting the lives of their children. So there are a plethora of opportunities that we've been working on, and we are constantly trying to deliver and develop more master lease opportunities so that families are supported to live and thrive where they're already established with their kids in school and so forth. So there's a number of those pieces around homelessness, and we are also ensuring that in the event that we do have someone that is potentially at risk of losing their home, and we know we could support that family by providing diversion funding, which means that they could bridge their rent, support them with tools and learning so that they can learn how to budget, so that it becomes more predictable and stable, so they don't actually become homeless. So there's also the pieces around the prevention that we see as very important. So when we do have someone that's homeless and it's a family, we know we have a solution like the ROSE or the master lease options. But if, for example, we can stop people from becoming homeless by providing those diversion opportunities, that is also a huge part of the solutions that we're crafting, and not just at our department, but across all of government. Thanks.
I recognize MLA Timmons.
The program is through Nova Scotia Housing Authority. It's based on 30% of income, which would greatly assist. I'm assuming that you're working with them as well in that, and with the rent subsidy program. Is that part of the diversion program, or is that outside of it?
I recognize ADM Johnson-Morrison.
Thank you. Yes, we are working with all the partners across government on these solutions, because we know that it really isn't a one-size-fits-all. It depends on what is the circumstance that someone might find themselves in. I think we know that when we can tailor unique solutions to depending on the family, we know that's part of the diversion funding that we have already established. But there's a number of other opportunities that we're hearing from partners that are coming to us all the time to say maybe this is a solution. So like we have one in particular right now that I know a number of our folks are being trained on in Cape Breton with New Dawn. So those are opportunities where we know this might be a solution that works in that community. It might not work in another, but we want to try to use the opportunity to tailor solutions that meet the needs of Nova Scotians, to really meet them where they are and give them the solutions that are right for their families.
I recognize MLA Timmons.
To my next question. Your team has done tremendous work in developing a new social work practice framework. Can you tell us more about the framework and why it is important and how it is different from before?
I recognize Ms. Barkhouse.
Yes, thank you for the question. As I've mentioned, the practice framework for delivery of child and family well-being services is something that we've worked hard to accomplish. We've collaborated with many partners in engaging around the development of the framework. Conversations with over 500 people led to valuable contributions in the development of the framework. The framework is grounded in culturally informed responses, so really does highlight ways of being in terms of Indigenous practices in supporting and strengthening families, as well as African Nova Scotian histories, impacts, and recognition and acknowledgement of past harms. And so it does guide practice in terms of supporting families. It does create a framework that has us be consistent and fair It does position communities in our work together and with staff within the department as part of communities and not separate from the places where children live, where we live together with families that we serve. And so with that framework, we're really interested in the ways that we approach child safety, supporting families to be together, supporting children and youth who find themselves in the care of the minister, supporting families to adopt. In all of the ways that we provide child and family services, we're supporting, we're doing that work with honesty, with dignity, and with tremendous value in the ways that we relate to one another. It is work that social workers have entered our department to do and are keen to do and strive to do each day and have been doing for a very long time. It does support a continuation of good practice and serving people well. It also does support a highlight and a focus and enhancement in terms of prevention and early intervention. So supporting families as soon as possible, as early as possible, and throughout their involvement in the journey of child and family services. So really enhancing those opportunities to partner with community service providers like Maggie's Place and others throughout the province to enhance those supportive ways of helping and helping more so to make impact for longer term success for children, youth, and families. And so our belief with the framework is that with our partners, all together in terms of the approach to this work and the support, we can help more, we can support more earlier, we can build more programs that really do address the issues like affordability and poverty and concerns about housing and safety and long-term well-being. And we're doing well with investments in that area throughout the province.
Thank you. I recognize MLA Timmins.
Thank you so much. I'm going to pass it on to my colleague. He has a few questions as well.
I recognize MLA McQuarrie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to thank everyone for their time being here and your in-depth answers. And I'd especially like to thank you for your hard work that is benefiting families across Nova Scotia. Your department has introduced a couple of interesting funding programs that support child and family well-being clients. One of those is PATH, which I'm hoping you can share more about. And the other is bridge funding for families working to reunite with their children. Can you talk a bit about that funding and the impact that you've seen from these two programs? And that question is for the Department of Opportunities and Social Development.
I recognize Ms. Barkhouse.
I'm looking for some great, thank you for the question. We do have some wonderful stories from folks who have received supports through both of those programs. But I'll hold the stories just to explain a little bit about them. So there are two programs that have really been impactful in terms of supporting families and youth in terms of their most vulnerable time. And so first off is our financial stabilization payment program, and that was introduced in January 2023. There have been 541 families who have been able to receive the financial stabilization payment. And that's a monthly payment that's provided to families, like I said, at perhaps their most vulnerable time, because it does come at a time when children, unfortunately, have come into care. And so prior to that happening, of course, we are working with community partners and services in ways of helping to support and mitigate concerns, increase protection, in all of the ways that we do that in community and as close with families as possible. And when all of those things have been considered and exhausted and children are come into care, we don't we recognize that there's perhaps a further burden for many families at that time. So we provide that financial stabilization payment each month to try to support families to maintain a relationship with their child, to maintain contact with their child, to maintain security and stability, because we always want to support a reunification when that harm has happened. And so the stabilization payment has the goal of achieving that and supporting stability during that crucial time. The PATH program has also been an exciting time for youth in this province. We have over 300 youth who have benefited from the PATH program since its implementation in January 2024. And so those are youth who, or young adults who have been formerly in care, who are formerly in receipt of services voluntarily as young people. And so they're supported financially and supported through contact with community partners. And so since that time, for those more than 300 youth, they have had almost 600 check-ins with youth outreach partners across the province. And so those check-ins really do help first to recognize that those young people are adults now with autonomy and choice and decision making, and sometimes need support at that stage of life, as we all do and all want for our own children. And so those check-ins, those contacts, that regular touch point of care and concern and support and connection has been meaningful for those youth as they transition to independent adulthood.
I recognize MLA McQuarrie.
Thank you. There is the standard household rate families receive each month through income assistance. My understanding is that the families can also access additional funding to meet their needs, in particular those with children. Can you talk a bit about what those other funding pieces are and how they support families receiving income assistance?
I recognize Ms. Griffiths.
Thank you for the question. So the standard household rate is just one way that we're supporting families. So the standard household rate is comprised based on a person's family composition and their accommodation type. So for an example, two-parent household with 2 children would be around $14.70 a month, but we also support in additional ways. So there could be additional supports needed. Maybe it's for medical transportation, or maybe it's for doing daycare drop-off as someone's on their way to employment. It also could be for other medical-related needs, special diets, medical supplies, things like that, that all help to promote the health of and well-being, financial well-being of the family. In addition to those things, also for the, I guess, moments that maybe a little bit less planned, things like back to schools, preparation, we also have supports for back to school supplies. In 2024, there was a one-time increase to those supports. And this year that was made permanent. So for children under the age of 13 that are in school, that's $100 to help the family prepare for back to school. And for children that are over the age of 13, that's $200. Also within that increase that was made permanent, that included children in that would be 4 years old and attending the pre-K programs as well. So all those supports are meant to help the family be prepared. But we also recognize that there's supports beyond ESIA, and we want to make sure that we are connecting our clients to those supports where appropriate as well. So it really is, an all-department government approach to make sure that families are supported. So we've heard us speak today about things like the rent supplement programs would be one referral. We also, public housing would be another one, HARP, home repair programs as well. So we're really trying to make sure that our caseworkers are aware of all of the supports and ways to help impact for healthy families and provide those supports. Thank you.
I recognize Emily Macquarie with under 1 minute left.
We know that one of the biggest predictors of becoming a recipient of income assistance is having parents be in receipt of income assistance. You have some programs to help young people in that situation. One of those is EDGE, and there are other programs like that. I wonder if you could just take half a minute to describe some of those, please.
I recognize Ms. Griffiths.
Thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. Wish I had longer on this one. EDGE has been a great success over the last 7 years. We are across the province. I will quickly give you info from a recent evaluation. This really provides wraparound supports for the participants. It is supports at the onset.
I'm sorry, I'll have to interrupt you just as you're building up. The good news is we do have some additional time, and it will be order. It will be divided at 7 minutes each for the NDP and Liberal caucuses and 14 minutes for the PC caucus. So making the most of that, I would recognize MLA Hanson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I kind of want to touch on the gender-based violence housing benefit. Because it was talked about earlier today, and how these are some programs that are helping women and other folks through gender-based violence. We recently heard from a mom who was approved for the survivors of gender-based housing benefit, but she was only approved for a one-bedroom unit. She has an 18-year-old daughter who, under these guidelines, are considered too old to be a dependent, even though she's still in high school and fleeing the same home that her mother is. So given everything that we know about gender-based violence and what we talked about sometimes can be, viewed through generations and experienced through the children, how it can have intergenerational impacts. Should there be more flexibility with this benefit, especially when it comes to families that still have their children at home with them?
I recognize ADM Johnson-Morrison.
Thank you for the question. So I think, first of all, I would say we know from transition houses and women's shelters that there has been a good uptick of this program. People are finding it as a program that is supporting them to make choice when they choose to leave a situation that is not safe for them, and we want to encourage everyone that is in any way feeling threatened in a relationship to have the freedom to do so. So I would say as part of that, we expect that the transition houses and women's shelters and partners that support this work would be allowed to work with the unique situations that come up when it comes to families. While this is a program that's run predominantly by one of our departments, if you do have a specific case like this that you're raising, I would be happy to talk with you after this just to understand a little bit more about it and see if I can connect that person to the right supports within the department to really help to navigate that for them. So I thank you for bringing that forward, and we can certainly try to see where we might be able to support whatever's required. Thank you.
I recognize Emily Hanson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, ADM. Because sometimes we have to adapt based on the needs of the client or based on the needs of the person, and I think that's wonderful that we will have a conversation about that. And we have heard some positive remarks from stakeholders about this particular benefit, and I think we are going in the right direction. There's just some things that obviously we need to look at when it comes to circumstances. We're also interested in a follow-up for MLA Rankin's question on income assistance recipients who are unhoused and those income assistance amounts reduced due to their housing status. So we know that there are numbers of those folks, but we also know that they don't receive the full amount as income assistance would give if they were housed. So we would love to be able to have that information as well when it's available to be able to give to us here at the committee. Is that okay, Chair?
We acknowledge that. Yeah.
Thank you. I have one more question and then I'll pass it off to my colleague. I wanted to talk about community support and mental health because I think this was really important, and I'm glad that there's also the anchor space in your location. But we also know that community does for community, and they pick up the pieces where government and other places don't do so, and because that's the nature of community. So appreciative of the work that your folks are doing and that they're continuing to do the work in community alongside supporters. In the recommendation C13 of the Mass Casualty Commission, they made clear that communities in the Northern Zone need special attention. The grief and strain on folks' overall mental health and well-being caused by the horrible events is considerable, and we spoke about that earlier. Do folks in your area feel that they have enough access to the supports that they need, and what would you recommend?
I recognize Ms. McInnis.
Thank you for the question. And actually, when I first started working for Maggie's Place, I did work through their program in Wentworth. And the short answer is we are getting there. Maggie's Place is fortunate enough to have a space right in Wentworth in where community goes to. This is kind of their meeting spot. We have community dinners. We're providing those kind of wonderful programs with early childhood groups, moms groups. We have our Family Service Navigator there once a week to help people build goals. There is still lots of work to be done in our zone for sure around that. When we talk about our mental health supports, a lot of it is accessed online. Internet's not great in Wentworth, and a lot of our more rural places in Cumberland County, and I'm sure Colchester experience that as well. It's like no matter what internet provider you have, the infrastructure isn't in place at this time for people to reach out and get those supports that are majority offered online, because there is some significant wait lists with that, and transportation is also an issue in our community as well for folks. So it's a work in progress, and we're fortunate enough to be able to do some of the good work, but yes, much more in-depth work would be great.
Thank you. I recognize MLA Hamid.
Thank you. My question is for Maggie's Place. So again, recommendations from the Mass Casualty Commission V16 urge governments to ensure that women had enough income to keep themselves and their families safe. And obviously it's different in various regions, but a single parent living in Halifax receiving income assistance along with other federal and provincial transfers is receiving less than $300 more today than they were in 2017. And so with that, with those numbers in mind, based on what you're seeing on the ground, do you think that as a province we are doing enough to implement this recommendation?
I recognize Ms. MacMaster with 35 seconds. Oh, yep. Ms. McInnis with
I think
30 seconds.
Thank you for the question. Super important. I think that we really do need to address the fact that our province needs a universal basic income at this point. Assistance is wonderful, band-aid approach to all things for short term. However, universal basic income will go a long way to really help keep folks safe and help them start a new journey in life that they need to.
And that is time. So we will move to the Liberal Caucus, and I would recognize MLA Rankin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm really interested in how you're tracking outcomes with respect to the income assistance program. Are you looking at beyond just the payment delivery? Are you looking at child well-being? Are you looking at employment stability? Are you looking at housing stability? Because housing really underpins everything for people. So my question really is how is that all being tracked to assess the effectiveness of the program?
I recognize Ms. Griffiths.
So thank you for the question. There's a variety of things that we are tracking related to outcomes for income assistance. Part of those would be connections for folks to employment and earnings that they're able to bring into the household that impacts monthly income. We, as ADM Johnson-Morrison mentioned earlier as well, we do have information on the by name list, so we do have an understanding of who's experiencing homelessness and who of those folks are also in receipt of income assistance. So we do have info to report on that as well. Thank you.
I recognize MLA Rankin.
Okay, great. So over the last year, how many Nova Scotians left the income assistance program and entered into stable employment? And then how many returned to assistance within 12 months, for example?
I recognize Ms. Griffiths.
Thank you for the question. I can say, with information that I have here today, that households that have been earning wages in year to date, so currently for 25-26, we have had family with children, 895 families that have had employment earnings. And families without children for this year has been 1990. I don't have information today to say exactly how many of those have been able to move from the caseload and remain off the caseload for 12 months. I can say that on average, 23% of households for income assistance have exited for employment.
I recognize MLA Rankin.
And are you tracking that number to try to gauge continuous improvement beyond that 23%, or was there another baseline previous to that 23%? Is there improvement in this area to get people back into the workforce?
I recognize Ms. Griffiths.
Thank you for the question. So it's always important work that we are striving for and connecting more folks to employment opportunities. That is data that we are tracking. I don't have, actually I do have, sorry, for 24-25, I can say that we have had an increase. So for example, families with children from 24-25, the number was 795. Year to date right now we're at 895. So we are seeing an increase there and an impact for families.
I recognize MLA Rankin.
And do you have like the average wait time for caseworkers on income assistance calls? Average wait time that people have to wait?
I recognize Ms. Griffiths.
Thank you for the question. And I do not have information specifically for wait times for phone calls. Our caseworkers are always striving to return calls timely and be in connection with their clients on a regular. Thank you.
I recognize MLA Rankin.
Do you track clients that may have been denied? Like, do you have a number of clients that would have been denied in the past year, and what kind of accountability exists to ensure that we have consistent decision making on those?
I recognize Ms. Griffiths.
Thank you for the question. I don't have numbers on that here today, but can certainly follow up if that's needed. We do track application information. So of course we're wanting to understand how many applicants that we have applying yearly and how many of those we are making eligible or ineligible. I do not have that number today though.
I recognize MLA Rankin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And what about social worker vacancies? Do you have vacancies, and what's the average caseload? What steps are being taken to address recruitment?
I recognize ADM James.
Thank you for the question. We are very fortunate to have over 400 social workers working in the department, and I think it's fair to say that this is not easy work that social workers do day in and day out. They find themselves in some of the most trying situations. So like any other employer right now trying to recruit and retain employees, we're no different than any other employer who would be facing this across the province. As a department, we have made a number of changes over the last year. We've introduced new pay scales for child protection social workers. We've increased after hours duty compensation, so a social worker being able to respond to an immediate need to keep a child safe. That compensation has increased. We have introduced paraprofessional roles to assist social workers so that social workers can actually work to their full scope of practice, day in and day out, engaging with children and families. In terms of caseloads, we work hard, to respond immediately to any concern that is raised or referral that comes in that indicates a child is in need of protection from abuse or neglect, and we take that very seriously. There's no magic solution for this. I think there are a number of initiatives that we've put in place, and we have seen a decrease in the vacancies in the department. We're also seeing more international social workers joining our department, and so have been thrilled to see folks wanting to come and work in the department and do this extremely heavy lift every day.
And 7 seconds, I would recognize MLA Momberkett.
I was just going to, on the record, wanted to know when the department knew the HARP program was being cut.
Sorry, that is time. We will now move to the PC caucus, and I recognize MLA Macquarie.
Thank you, and you wanted more time to answer this question, so I'm going to read the whole question, and you can give the whole answer. Thank you. We know that one of the biggest predictors of becoming a recipient of income assistance is having parents in receipt of income assistance, which of course speaks to the generational nature of poverty. Your department has put specific programs in place to support young people living in income assistance households and for youth receiving income assistance themselves as individuals. One of those is EDGE, but there are others too. Are those programs available to youth outside of income assistance? And do you have any results that you can speak of for the programs?
I recognize Ms. Griffiths.
Thank you for the opportunity to come back to this question. So EDGE is just one of the many programs that we have available for low-income Nova Scotians and youth. So it doesn't have to be a recipient of ESIA or dependent of ESIA to be accessing some of these programs. EDGE is offered across the province. It's been running now for 7 years. We have locations across the province in Windsor, Kentville. We have some in Metro and Halifax. I believe New Glasgow, and we also have a virtual site now as well. So participants are able to log on in many different ways, which makes sense for them. So the program really offers wraparound supports. So it's starting with that interaction at the beginning as the participant is entering to the program. It offers life skills. It offers mentorship, peer support, also helps to address any barriers that the person may be experiencing to connecting to employment. This might also mean connections for mental health supports as well. So through the program, the participant is really formulating relationships, connections, and trying to build that support system for themselves. We recognize not all youth have a stable support system that they can lean back on and really ask the questions of what does employment mean for them, or what does the further opportunities mean for them. So this program connects folks to work placements, connects them to long-term employment opportunities as well. So some of the recent results we've seen from the recent survey of the participants that participated in the survey, we had 69% fully completed the EDGE program. Of those, 40% were able to secure employment within 6 months of completion. And of those 40%, 60% were able to secure full-time employment. One of the stories that was recently shared with me by a participant was someone that was entering the program. They described their situation of feeling physically and mentally unwell. They really didn't know what that path forward was going to be, or what their possibilities and opportunities were going to be. So through that mentorship, the peer support, they were able to identify healthy relationships in their own life, what was causing some barriers for them, and help to overcome those things. Through peer support, this person discovered that a hobby of theirs, which was artwork, really had positive feedback from their peers that you should be pursuing this. What can you do this bringing you forward to employment. This youth is now working at a storefront that produces and sells local artwork. They've described not only has it led to employment for them, but it has led to community connections, engaging in community in a way that they hadn't in the past. They're attending events and no longer feel that isolation that they did prior to attending the program. Just one of many great stories coming from EDGE program. But that's not the only one. We have as well Career Rising is another example of a program that starts to engage lower income youth at the age of 12 and progresses through the school years. And the goal with that program is, again, mentorship, peer support. It's about building a community and a connection for the youth that are participating. Another recent story shared with me was that a single parent in receipt of income assistance had 3 children that participated in that program. They stayed with the program for several years, and all 3 children have gone on to connect to post-secondary education, which has led for employment opportunities for them. But circling back to the parent in that situation, they then recognized the achievements of their children and circled back with their caseworker to connect with employment opportunities themselves. And they are now working at one of the daycares that one of their children is working at. So the program really does inspire and create those opportunities and promotes the connection for those youth to circle back to when they might come to barriers in their new workplace and have someone to chat that through. Other examples are Youth Development Initiative, again, relying on that mentorship and peer connection within community for youth, and the great programs that the service providers are putting on through that. Thank you for the question.
I recognize MLA Macquarie.
Thank you for your stories. They connect us in a way that policies and programs don't. And the stories really help us understand how your work is benefiting families and some of the ways we can improve them. I'd like to pass on the time to...
I recognize MLA Stoylov.
I'd like to... Could one of you enlighten us a bit better on the Strengthening Fathers program and the impact that you've seen on families that have gone through the program already?
Oh, I recognize Ms. MacMaster.
So Maggie's Place actually doesn't hold the Strengthening Fathers program. Other community service providers offer that in Cumberland and Colchester counties. However, we do partner with those community service groups. Oftentimes we'll offer our space and our early childhood educators who can provide childcare during the program, making it more barrier-free. So I have met folks who have gone through the program, but I can't necessarily speak to the program itself other than we've always been open to partnering with the folks that hold that funding.
MLA Stoylov.
Thank you very much for that response. And I'd like to pass the floor on to MLA Timmons.
I recognize MLA Timmons.
Thank you. I heard about a 2000 bursary for income assistance recipient pursuing training. Can you talk about the tools and equipment that's for meaningful support? How are families responding to the kind of targeting financial help regarding the bursary?
I recognize Ms. Griffiths.
Thank you for the question. So this is a new program. It's the Direct Entry Apprenticeship Bursary. So this is connecting ESI recipients or their dependents that are entering into the trades through apprenticeship with the $2,000 bursary. So this can be used towards tools, work-related clothing, or safety equipment that they might need to help them kind of launch successfully into those roles and those jobs. It is a new program, so we don't yet have numbers on uptake, but we'll certainly be tracking those. Thank you.
I recognize MLA Timmons.
Thank you. You'll probably get a few phone calls because I've already been pushing it out into the community. So thank you so much for that. It's very important for further education within families. And I'm going to pass it on to Tim.
And I recognize MLA Ohid.
Thank you very much, Chair. Maggie's Place, roughly 30 years now that you've been, yeah, and that's exciting. Just tell me a little bit, and our world has changed so much during my time in the workforce, but even since the pandemic. So tell me just a little bit how your program and challenges are changing and what you're doing to try and keep up with that change. Good chance to sell yourself in here on how you have to keep moving quickly.
I recognize Ms. McInnis.
Thank you. So through a lot of our work, we do hear from participants directly about what they're looking for. We're always communicating with them in a different number of ways, so from home visiting programs to prenatal. So we are kind of in a unique space that we know directly what the community is looking for. Speaking from my own experience, working before was like pre-2020, it was a little bit different, like a little more early childhood programming, but we are able to provide a lot more things like loose parts programming for families so that they know how to engage and play with their kids without like a cell phone or having to spend money or anything like that. So using the things that are in your home, because we are dealing with a very low income population in Cumberland County and Colchester. So a lot of our programming goes around food security, just how to be a family and a parent in a time that it is so challenging financially. So when you're struggling with all of that other stuff, you can, at the end of the day, know that you have some tools at home now that you can still sit on the floor and play with your kids, and you don't need to spend that money to do that. That's a lot of what we're doing.
MLA Ohid.
I think MLA McQuarrie.
I recognize MLA McQuarrie.
Thank you. The department has specific funding and support available for families with children with disabilities. Direct family support for children is one long-standing program that many Nova Scotians have been able to access. Another newer one is school leavers, and there seems to be a lot of excitement around that. Can you run through that support, how it's facilitated, and what eligibility requirements look like? And can you talk a bit more about support available for these families for the department?
I recognize ADM James.
Great, thank you for the question. Our department is one of many organizations and government departments who are providing support to families with children living at home with disabilities. As you mentioned, one of the longstanding programs is the direct family support for children, which helps family offset costs associated with medical transportation, medication, and respite for parents, family members, or caregivers. The program considers not only income, so there are eligibility requirements to meet the program, but we also use family size to determine eligibility. We have had a couple of important changes to this program in the last several years. Earlier this year, we increased the amount of funding available to families, and we also increased summer respite funding for families, and we've heard stories where this has actually enabled children who are living with disabilities participate in more than one summer day camp program. So that increased support helps offset the costs that families are experiencing in ensuring that their children are, they have the availability of inclusion in all aspects of their life like any other child in the province. We've also updated eligibility guidelines to account for cost of living increases. So, when we, and I'm sure folks have heard of the remedy, which is also, being delivered through OSD for adults who fall under the disability support program. But we recognize that there are a number of opportunities now and in the future to ensure that families are receiving the support they need, whether it is to care for an adult child who may have a disability or a younger child who is at home with a disability. The School Leavers Program is a unique program that we recently launched in September, and we're quite excited about that. I think we all can remember being a grade 12 student, and graduation is around the corner, and you're filled with fear and anxiety on what is to happen next. Imagine if you are with a disability, that anxiety would be driven even higher. And so in partnership with our colleagues with Education and Early Childhood Development, we have introduced this program that focuses on grade 12 students who are transitioning from school to roles and opportunities in their community. And so giving them a sense of purpose, some excitement to know that there's something.
That is time for, I feel like a big meanie sometimes. That does end the question portion of this morning's meeting, and we will have an opportunity for final comments. I will just mention that earlier I misspoke in introducing ADM Johnson-Morrison, which led me to a glib comment about whether it was a promotion or a demotion. Certainly, being an MLA, and I suspect colleagues will agree, is the greatest privilege. But equally, I think we'd all agree that the work you do every day is heavy, is absolutely important, and is potentially transformative to the lives you touch. So with that, we will start on this end of the table, and I would recognize ADM James.
Thank you. And thank you all for the opportunity to come here and speak with you today. We could have regaled you with stories upon stories of, what our staff experience every day. In some cases, very, very heavy, very hard, very trying and emotional experiences. And there are also experiences that lift one another up. And we, it fills our cup to know that the work that we are doing day in and day out is supporting healthy families. I was hoping to answer a question earlier on this, so I'm going to weave it into my closing remarks and say families are not just defined by blood. Family is who is in your circle. And in many cases, it's our frontline staff who become like family to our clients. They are the people that are called on the highest of high days and honestly on the lowest of low days. So we feel, I'm speaking on behalf of all of us, I'm extremely fortunate to work in a department that has an impact on so many lives across the province. And as we continue down the path to supporting healthy families in the province, we know that there's more work to do. We are excited and invigorated knowing that we are making an impact on families, we are making an impact on individuals, and more importantly, we are making an impact on children in this province and giving them an opportunity to be successful. So I thank you all. Thank you for your questions. Thank you to our partners at Maggie's Place and so many other service providers across the province who walk with us every day and ensure that children and families are receiving the support that they need and when and where they need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional closing remarks? I recognize Ms. MacMaster.
Thank you for the opportunity. We take any opportunity to share the great work that's happening in communities through family resource centers. And as we do have that unique position, and as we talk about impacts, one thing I would like to just remind people in the room is that sometimes I have to remind staff that they aren't always going to see the impact of their work. And sometimes it's years later you run into someone, and I had the opportunity to be in Halifax for a family resource center meeting last week, and I ran into a young woman in a drugstore, and I looked at her and I thought, oh my goodness, are you from Amherst? And she said, yes, I am. And I said, I knew you when you were a kid. Your parents always came to the family resource center, and they wanted to raise you in a way that they weren't raised, and they were always fighting with each other, but they always put you first. And she laughed, and I said, what are you up to? And she said, oh, I'm going to this university and I'm taking this program, I'm taking my doctorate. And I just thought, I know that family resource centers are not responsible for that. But we were there to support that family in a time from prenatal right up until, you know, that child was into school. And you know, she even asked about some of the staff by name from the reading program that her parents took her to. And I just, you know, we don't always see the impact of our work. And so I just wanted to remind people of that. You know, sometimes we're asking for stats and things, and it's hard to measure. It's really hard to measure.
Thank you so much. We'll take a 5-minute recess to allow you time to collect your belongings. Order. Bring this meeting back to order, please. Is there any other business today? There's none of which I'm aware. Again. I recognize MLA Hanson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My colleague has put forward a motion based on what we've heard today. Be it resolved that the Standing Committee on Community Services affirms its support for the immediate establishment of the Office of Child and Youth Advocate and recommends that the government ensure that any funding required for that office is included in the upcoming 2026-2027 budget. And it was distributed to each and every member. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there discussion on the motion? I'm not sure, my eyes didn't move in two directions, but I will recognize MLA Rankin.
Yeah, I thank my colleague for bringing this forward. I think it's a reasonable motion, especially it gives time for the upcoming budget, because this government has a pattern of spending outside of the budget process, so I think they could stand it up before the budget. And this is, I think, very reasonable ask for the committee to simply affirm their support, because any more delay could mean that more children are underserved and could potentially experience more harm. So I think that's why the government took this as a priority to create the office. So time is always of the essence to do important things like this. So we'll be in support.
And I recognize MLA Stoylov.
Thank you. The department here today said that they are committed to this office, which requires real work and consideration. This government is doing exactly that and is committed to establishing this office, which was not a priority for previous governments. We are on a timeline that will ensure that the work in this office is thorough and serves Nova Scotians well. The budget will be made for this by the finance minister and debated in the legislature. It will not be built on a series of committee motions, so we will not be supporting this motion.
I recognize MLA Hamid.
Thank you. Nova Scotia is one of only two provinces without an independent child and youth advocate. The NSNDP first tabled this legislation in 2018, and the current government promised that a child and youth advocate would be in place in 2021, introduced legislation to create the office in 2024, have yet to commit to a timeline, budget, or advocate appointment. And according to the 2024 Auditor General report, there are major failures in the child welfare system. Children are some of our most vulnerable citizens, and they deserve a voice that will represent them and their interests. Without a dedicated child and youth advocate, there's no one whose sole job is to make sure children are being truly heard, and protecting children can't wait any longer. Again, offices have been, by previous governments, put up in no time. The Office of Equity and Anti-Racism was put up immediately. It did not need 5 years to be put into place because it was a priority. So this just unfortunately speaks to the priorities of the current government. Yeah, I think.
Call for the question.
Let's like to call for the question for the vote.
Is there further debate? Question on the motion. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. The motion fails. Can everyone perhaps more clearly express all those in favor of the motion? Aye. And those opposed?
No.
And the motion fails. There being no further business, the committee will next meet on December 2nd for the topic of guaranteed basic income with witnesses from the Department of Opportunities and Social Development and Basic Income Guarantee Nova Scotia Group. This meeting is now adjourned.